Here's a surprise for you, everyone. We've got Limp Bizkit, and it is their 1999 album, Significant Other. Now, as I listened to this, I did see a review on it, and I kind of thought, well, you know, the people, the way that they come up, I feel like it's interesting just because usually they're hitting more than one home plate. If you could simultaneously get to home plate, get a home run on like three different baseball diamonds at the same time, I feel like that's what some people started to do, and that's kind of the reason why certain releases will be known as, just blockbuster classics. And so, in order to do that, your music has to be more than just a song on a Friday night. Now, of course, doing it's difficult for me to, talk about hitting these three different home runs because really you have to be pretty intelligent to know that so many battles are being won at once. But I do feel like the least I can say is that this is an album that you need to hear because it felt as if to me that it kind of, it went multi-platinum. So what you get is an album, and I mean more so than Eminem. You gotta keep in mind that this album outsold Eminem's first album, but he later got that. But the difference between like the Marshall Mathers LP and this album is just that it's more relatable, and it has things that are not so campy and just, like I said, this is difficult to describe, but this sort of thing, it deals with like a summery atmosphere. This is definitely riding music. You can cruise to this, and so you just get a release that, well, gonna take up your time. And the reason why it works so well is just because it feels as if Fred Durst is saying things that you want to say. And that's kind of what it comes off as, just some of these titles and everything like that. You'll notice. Now, I'm going to let you know I did not pay super attention to the lyrics, but the thing is I do know from what I'm going to. And so what that means is it's going to be a hit here and there. It's going to work. So really, the reason why I review albums like this is just because I want to have like these ones that people are going to say the nat. I want to have these releases that people are going to say, I am still listening to this 6 years later, and that's just what it felt like. Obviously people were listening to it. It took off summer of 1999. This was a huge boiler, and there just hasn't been an album like that in recent times. So I guess what I was trying to do is to dissect it and show to you what made this so effective. And I think the main thing about it is just that, well, the songs, I mean, it's hard because I didn't listen to it, but it feels as if like this is it's a big well, it feels like it's kind of like a manifestation. and that's, it's a good thing just because you're going to be able to fuck with these sort of guys and have a good time. So, yeah, I guess in a lot of ways it's different. It's different from like a Tech Nine record just because, it has to do with like Friday, Saturday, weekend type stuff, but also, it, it just is not necessarily just about the top of the camp, so it's more so I think just the main thing is it's just so, can't think of the word I'm looking for, is it's just a people's album. This is like a people's choice type thing, and that's what it felt like to me. So you have here, and this is going to be a longer review, but you have a people's choice album. It's rap metal on top of that. Maybe timing had something to do with it, but just the fact that, it's not necessarily everyone I reviewed has been a candidate for that sort of thing. So I tried to pick them still, but anyways, so can you smoke to this? And I think the answer is yes, you can. A couple good ones are Nookie, Just Like This, Show Me What You Got, I'm Broke. These are some real good ones. Now, I like 7 out of 13 songs. I didn't really count the outro just because, a song that's called outro really doesn't mean much as a song to me. But, you just got to look for that. So the it was different listening to this release just because I aim for the production first to get me excited. But the problem with it is it changes more often. And sometimes, like the part of the song that you like ends within a minute and a half of the song, and the song is 4.5 minutes. So you gotta try new things. So obviously I would have had this reviewed last month or earlier, but I just, it took so long to get this one together. But like really, it's a pretty heavy hitter. So the production, that's what leads me to that. It is not necessarily, there's like one beat on here, Method Man's on here, and Together Now. I think Just Like This and Nookie are some other ones that kind of have more hip hop sounding ones, but you're gonna find that it's just a gnarled mess. That's really what it is, and so it's got some good stuff though, and we'll just talk about it with the unheard songs. These are the ones that I liked. I like 7 out of 13. So I like Show Me What You Got, No Sex, Nobody Like You, I'm Broke, Break Stuff, Nookie, and Just Like This. So like Break Stuff, that one, I think I remember that one being real metal type thing. And there was like another one that was kind of like that. I preferred the ones where it had more of like a real pulse pounding type style. And, when you got that, you kind of were disappointed when it calmed down and you heard more of like the kind of mellow horns that you hear on some of these. And the cross between it kind of almost sounds like makeshift music, but it doesn't lose the edge at the same time. So that just makes like a real good thing. It's intended to be something that you get loose to, and it just feels like with this release, it's wanted to be more than just for a couple weeks that you're playing this. And that, I can't say that about a ton of releases because most people would assume by the time that their next album comes out that it would be finished. I know I'm talking about this album, but I wanted to give importance to it because it did go 6 tons platinum, and most importantly, when you get these records that are a success and they're good at the same time, it's, this requires a longer review. It's just like, people reviewing like a Led Zeppelin record or something like that. If there would ever be, if there was like more, you want to sum that up a little bit. So really, I know a lot of people have heard this record and it's probably to the point of being played out, but I do think that it's something that needs, you gotta go for this. And so, yeah, what I've come up with is it's a good cruising album. It's got some good energy, and it's not something that makes you feel small. All three of these things wind up being good listen for a while. The only thing is just I would have preferred the production to be a little bit more lasting, and just having something that, like, I felt like Kid Rock's album Devil Without a Cause is better. I mean, just simple and plain, that one is, leagues better than this album, but this is still good. So it just feels kind of a little bit not as um, super packaged as much as Kid Rock's did, but it's still good. It just is looser. It just is a little bit less emphasis on like um on can't think of the word. A little bit less emphasis on cohesive. So that's just all it is. So, you get this group, they do it, they cut loose and everything, but that's all it is. So, regardless of it, I think because I like 7 out of 13 songs, and really one of them I almost don't even want to count as a song, but we'll do it. So 7 out of 13 is going to be like a 6.5 to a 7. And the thing is that End Together song, I think that's an almost song, with the production on that song is just a little bit it's a little bit tedious, but I mean, I may end up liking it more. So that would be 8 out of 13. That would pretty much raise it to like a 7.5. So I'm just going to give it a 7. And because there's just a few numbers on here that just, it tries my patience, because you want to like them, but you're listening to them over and over just to get to that point, and it's not something that is easy. So, I could listen to this album until September, October, and it would still end up, I'd still be thinking the same thing. So I had to jump in, and that's what you get. So just understand that despite the fact that, you may have thought that this album was going to get a 10, it is a 7, but you need to hear it. That's the thing. It's one of those kind of like, when you talk about the movie Batman Begins, it's a movie that you need to see. And despite the fact of whether or not it's perfect or not is irrelevant, you need to listen to it. You need to get this integrated into your head. And it's just like mandatory learns. These are just mandatory learns that you need to have, and I feel like that's the most important thing. So get this album through your head. You don't like it, don't come back to it, but you do need to listen to it. It's definitely one to try. So I give this album a 7. And as far as the social score goes, this is the thing. I know people liked it. People probably have talked about Fred Durst and his group in the past. And so I'll give the social score like an 8. 8.5 just because it's fairly decent, you know. People know about it. And yeah, so I think it pretty much could be top, but this the energy that's on this album, it does feel like a red hot album. And you know, that's the kind of music that we always need in like the month of June. And so, you know, just pay attention to that. Alright, subscribe for more fun. I give this album a 7 and an 8.5 social.